Hello and welcome back to the Money Advice Liaison Group podcast, working together to improve the lives of people in debt. I'm Helen Gill, Founding Director of Marketing Communications Consultancy EngageComms and host of the MALG podcast. If you work in any capacity across the debt landscape, listen in on your commute, during your lunch break or whenever you have some downtime for inspiring insights into how we can overcome the barriers to a fairer, better system for those in financial difficulty. Today's guest needs no introduction, but we'll give him one anyway. Lee Healey started his career at the Department for Work and Pensions as a decision maker handling benefits and later worked as a benefits advisor and manager with the Disablement Association of Barking and Dagenham in his Essex homeland. He earned a certificate in money advice practice and debt advice at Staffordshire University after founding IncomeMAX in 2009. Lee has built the community interest company from the ground up, transforming it into a leading UK social enterprise that blends human-centred financial advice with AI-powered innovation. His commitment to helping vulnerable individuals and low-income households claim every penny of support they're entitled to has driven IncomeMAX to identify well over 50 million in new income for more than 150,000 households. But he doesn't take all the credit himself. Lee publicly champions and recognises IncomeMAX's 40-strong team for their hard work and dedication. As one of the top 100 influential people on LinkedIn and an expert guest on the Martin Lewis Money Show Live, BBC News, Sky News and Channel 5, Lee is recognised nationally for his influence and impact on improvements to the benefits system. He may have old-school values, but he's a true innovator, something which has seen him being shortlisted for AI Entrepreneur of the Year at the Great British Entrepreneur Awards 2025. We also couldn't introduce him without mentioning what a passionate supporter of Money Advice Liaison Group he is, as a former board member and now ambassador. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when he gave a post-pandemic closing keynote speech at the MALG conference in 2022, entitled Fighting for Their Rights, a Call to Action for the Money Advice Sector, which is why we've invited him back to do the opening keynote at the MALG conference 2025, which will be all about the evolving debt policy landscape. This episode is a precursor to what Lee will be talking about at the conference, because let's face it, we could listen to him talk passionately about what he does all day. So, over to you, Bob. Let's get started.
Great to see you, Lee, and what an introduction. I can't believe you've done so much in such a short period of time in relative terms, but absolutely tremendous, and thank you for joining us today. We've heard a lot about what you've done with IncomeMAX, and I'm sure we'll get into that a bit more, but also your role as an influencer as well, and I'd like to probe into that a bit more as well. And it's great to be able to sit here today with you, knowing that you're going to be delivering the keynote at our conference in Leeds on the 13th of November, which will be tremendous. So really delighted that we can sit down and spend a little time together this afternoon.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks for having us. And obviously, 30 years helping families navigate the benefit system now. So it's been a long time, you know, from a career perspective. It's gone in a blink of an eye. I'm still enjoying it as much as I ever have. And obviously, to be founder and CEO of IncomeMAX is such a joy, such a privilege. Love what we do as an organisation, but I love the fact that it also, you know, brings me into spaces like this where we get to talk about making life better for people, improving the lives of people that are experiencing debt, that need help with their finances.
Yeah, brilliant. No, well, it's tremendous. One thing that I wanted to really probe a little bit more is around your background and how you got into this in the first place, because it didn't just happen overnight, did it? I guess there was a lot of thought and pre-thought and all sorts of mental activities that were going on to drive you into this space. So let's see, give us a little bit of an insight.
How did I get here? It's an incredible story. Obviously, yeah, it's 30 years old now. You know, I'm coming up for my 50th birthday in October. So it's all I've ever done. When I was 19, Mum told me to get a job, and she was absolutely right. But I must say that, like, I'd worked since I was 13. I worked in my local corner shop, stacking shelves. When I was I used to skateboard to work. That's give you an idea of how old I was then. I worked in supermarkets. I sold double glazing through my A-levels. I ran my own raves and parties and radio stations when I was a teenager. But I think I always had designs for music and DJing, but that's not how life panned out. Mum told me to get a job, and that job was with the Department of Work and Pensions. It was only supposed to be temporary, and 3 years later, I was still there. absolutely loving the work I was doing. Obviously, it was my working for the government and helping families to claim the benefits that they were entitled to, through a government role. Really exciting, but also, as a youngster, did I think I'd still be doing that after 30 years? Probably not. But my career took me in an incredible direction. I loved helping families at the DWP or DSS, it was then. And then I used to get on really well with the advice sector in Barking and Dagenham because I was working in Barking Job Centre, East London lad, as I am.
Yeah, I know it.
And the advice sector at the time had an amazing organisation, Disablement Association of Barking and Dagenham, DABD, and they used to love coming through to me because, I always used to administer the claims correctly and was friendly on the phone. And one day they said, there's a job going. And I applied. And do you know what, Bob? Honestly, you wouldn't believe what happened after that. I joined DABD. I met my wife, Steph, on that day.
Good grief.
So we're obviously, we've got our 2 beautiful daughters now together. I had a son already. So Alex, he was 30 yesterday. So I'm a dad of 3. But once I joined the advice sector, I loved it. I just loved it. It was just fantastic to be, on the other side, helping and supporting families. And so, many years in the advice sector, Advice UK for a few years. Yeah. I went back to DABD this time as a manager and managed the benefits advice team. We're doing some great work across East London, finding millions of pounds of new income for families. Yeah. And then in 2009, I had the brainwave for IncomeMAX. At the time, Leslie, my CEO at DABD, she was brilliant. She gave me such free rein to be who I wanted to be. And she basically said, have you heard about social enterprise, Lee? And I was like, no, what? Tell me more. And because I'll be honest, I loved my time in the charity sector as an advisor. But it was sometimes frustrating trying to find funding, and the debt advice sector, the income maximisation sector, housing sector, we all know how hard it is to get funding. Yeah. And I just wanted to try and do it a slightly different way. So I decided to see if I could set IncomeMAX as a social enterprise, a profit-making business who could reinvest those profits into the work we do for the community. And I wanted to see if I could get that funded through partnerships. And you'll know, how partnerships, how they're important to me, to you, to Mal.
Absolutely.
And so I set about setting IncomeMAX up as a CIC, a community interest company, a social enterprise that would work with partners to fund that service. And here we are now, 50 million of new income found for customers, 150,000 customers plus, a team of 40 committed advisors. I feel so grateful, so lucky.
Well, you say lucky. There's a lot of hard work that went into that as well, and a lot of passion and commitment that you've demonstrated over the years. And I think that's why you've managed to achieve what you've managed to achieve. And out of very, very humble background, you wouldn't have imagined that very first day walking into the department of, DSS, as you say, as it was, that would have happened. And meeting your wife en route as well, which is fantastic. And I met my wife when she had her first day in the bank. So there we go, you see. There's a parallel. We draw a line about the skateboarding.
Yes,
I'm afraid I've never been on a skateboard.
Skateboarding, music, radio. I mean, look, I'm an East London lad. I was born in Barking, grew up in Dagenham, working class area. It's famous, obviously, for Fords. And I'll be honest, Dad was a bricklayer, builder. But, as a bricklayer, sort of working through 80s, 90s, when we were kids, me and my brother, I've got a brother, Nick. Dad sometimes had hard times because there was recessions. It wasn't always easy to keep building work going at that time. So, he would, drive taxis of a night. Incredible,
Yeah, so a strong work ethic, really.
100%. And then my mum, who is, of course, the famous Lee Healey, who works for IncomeMAX, Wise 100 award winner. She worked in the bookmaking industry. So mum would come home of a night and settle the bets, while we were kids were having dinner, so really strong work ethic. Mum and dad were absolutely wanted me to get the best education. I was a good kid at school, even though I was mischievous. And so never bad, but always mischievous. I loved life. If there was a ball to kick around, a fence to climb over, a stone to throw. You know, I was a bit of a naughty kid. You know,
Nothing's changed there. Then.
No, nothing's changed there. I think I'm still the authentic me. But what was lovely is kind of growing up in Dagenham. It was a real area. It was an area where, you know, you knew your neighbour, and you kind of knew that sometimes vulnerability was there. Like even from an early age, like, you know, my nan and granddad, I remember like my granddad wasn't too well on my mum's side. So, you know, like my mum was you know, had a big family, and it was hard growing up. You know, she talks about the sort of stigma around things like school meals and stuff. And that stuff, like, it resonates with you as a kid.
Yeah, yeah.
And on my dad's side, we had my nanny died really young. Sorry.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. It brings emotions forward, doesn't it, Lee? I totally understand.
She died really young. She died of cancer. And yeah, it hit the family.
Yeah.
It did. And I think, like, I don't know, perhaps like when you experience that, I'm watching my dad go through it, watching my family go through it. And my granddad, who was obviously like my sort of nanny's husband, he was my hero. He's all our hero. He's not with us anymore, but he lived a beautiful and rich life. But like, I think these things shape us, like these experiences, because at the end of the day, like, we all live, and then obviously we all know that we die. But like, maybe that was kind of not lost on me from a young age, because both you know, those situations with both sides of my family were challenging for my parents, and of course us as kids. You're trying to make sense of it. You know what I mean? So I suppose what that did do is it shaped my understanding that life can be difficult for people because of different reasons, whether it's mental health, whether it's physical health, or whether it's your job, or whether it's your circumstances that you find yourself in. Like, that understanding and empathy is a road that all of us walk at some point in our life. And so therefore, you know, when I went into DWP and, you know, and the charity sector, and there were people coming to see me who had problems, you see yourself in them.
You could relate to it.
I think you could relate to it, like always, you know. And so whenever people are judgmental or, you know, talk down about the vulnerable or whoever, I suppose these days I just try to remind everybody that they're, but for the grace of God, go any one of us.
Yeah, it's situations like that shape you and shape your future.
Absolutely, and shape everybody's lives, because, you know, we all go through difficult times. We're all just trying to be okay, which is why I feel so passionately about the social security system, about there being debt advice options for people to be able to start again and start fresh. You know, we all make mistakes. We all mess up. We're all human.
I'm just curious, you were talking before about obviously the fantastic work that IncomeMAX does, but is there an example that you can share with me and with our listeners that really brings that to life?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's the case studies and the impact that we have for IncomeMAX, because I suppose, you know, I've always had an acute sense that obviously life can happen, you know, through growing up and through my work and stuff like that. So when I sort of founded IncomeMAX, it was very much sort of based around the law, you know, the rules of the system. You know, it was...
And there are a lot of rules.
There's a lot of rules. It was your severe disability premiums. It was the means tested benefit calculations. It was forms to be filled out. So that was kind of like very much like, you know, even in the early days of IncomeMAX, I was setting it up, you know, based really around the law. And this still holds me, like, it's like the foundation really that things are built on. But then as IncomeMAX, as the deeper impacts of IncomeMAX were kind of, you know, kind of becoming apparent to me, started realising that there was something much deeper and much more beautiful going on than I'd ever even realised myself. Sometimes we're working on gut instinct, we're working on survival, right? I was starting a business, I was trying to make it work, I was recruiting staff. There was a lot riding on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in amongst it all, I was learning these incredible skills around things like branding and stories. And those stories were there. They were there in the letters that customers were writing to us. They were saying, not just thank you for the money, but they were saying, thank you for listening. Thank you for the support. Thank you for helping me make a phone call. Thank you for helping me make fill out a form. And I was like, whoa, how did I miss this? How did I miss this deeply human story? And I'll be honest, like, that's the things that stand out. It's those cases where, yes, sometimes we find someone 16 grand's worth of backdated payments, or we might find someone 150 quid's worth of energy bill help, all of which make a massive difference. But actually, what's even more beautiful is that I think is the fact that at IncomeMAX, we treat people like humans, like we listen to their story. We know they're just trying to be okay. And like for me, I don't think we're alone in that. I think this runs through this whole sector. I think this runs through the whole sector.
You know, visually, you put out a book like that, which is the rules and regulations, if you like, the laws, but actually the most important thing are the people.
That's right.
And the impact it has on the people. And that's where you come in, really. So I think, you know, if there's one thing you wish that every household in the UK knew that would help them, what would that be?
Well, I'd like them to know this inside out, really.
That's easier said than done, though.
But it's easier said than done. And actually, like, we're touching on something I think that's really important, in that we live in a society that's governed by a parliamentary system. Laws are laid down. That's how that's how society is designed. It's built around the law, you know. So unfortunately, like, you know, it's impossible for everybody to, you know, completely absorb the welfare benefits and tax credits handbook or the disability rights handbook. It's so really, what I would really want people to know is that they're not alone.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, because what the advice sector provides is a bridge to this.
Yeah.
Sometimes in a lot of ways, I think that gets missed. I think we forget that the advice sector is not just, you know, people working around these rules. It's actually a bridge into getting the support and the help that you need to make life better for you in a system that's designed, or should be designed, to help and support you through tough times.
And I think the reality is that whether you're a creditor, an advisor, or people working in the regulation within the debt sector, they're people, and they're people who are trying to translate all of that information in those books, and I'm sure there are plenty of others apart from those two that they need to navigate through, but translating those into things that will really help people. And that's what you do. You're the translator, aren't you, to
100%.
make sure that people who are struggling can find whatever piece, page 412 in there, that can change their life.
That can change their life. You've got it in one, Bob. You've got it in one. And it's, you know, it's fantastic when that penny drops. You know, you've always known it. MALG and our community, we know it. We know that there's power in advice, that there's power in either human beings or technology helping and supporting people to get this information to the people so that they get the income that they deserve, or the debt advice that they so desperately need. And, you know, and that, you know, we live in a society full of laws, you know, and it's just, for me, this is the foundation. And then what you build on top of that is, you know, ways to get that information to people so that they are okay in life. That's what drives me.
Yeah. And taking that forward, the other really interesting thing that you've brought to the table more recently is a further level of translation, which is actually the AI bot and Max, who you brought to our conference a couple of years ago. Tell me about Max, because there are going to be some people listening to this podcast who will think, who on earth is Max?
It is the most beautiful story, because it is the next chapter of my journey and my career and IncomeMAX, because I love conversations. I think conversations, as we're having now and as my team have with human beings every day on the phone, vulnerable people, you know, vulnerable to life's ups and downs, conversations is what gets us there. You know, when you're referred through to IncomeMAX, you are not just, you know, case 529, you know, you are a person with hopes, dreams, aspirations, family, children, a housing status of which, you know, you might need that support to be okay in your home. You may have a disability or a health issue, you know. So for me, Max came out of a frustration with technology, believe it or not.
Oh, welcome to my world.
So obviously we have things like benefit calculators and so on and so forth. And I have the greatest of respect for all of the benefit calculator services and all of the tech services that are, trying to get this stuff translated into a calculator which someone can go through. But look, I can't turn off 30 years of working with vulnerable people. I've always been obsessed with conversations and with human-to-human interaction, because I think it's where the magic lies. It's like really understanding who you are as a human being and what you're going through. And so I'd kind of like, we've been dabbling in technology. We've got some great technology behind us prior to Max within IncomeMAX, great Salesforce systems and brilliant CRMs. And we use technology brilliantly, all of the different ways to communicate. And then AI on a commercial and sort of bigger scale came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, okay, let's check this out. And so I enrolled on a course at Oxford University, back to university at my grand age of 48 or whatever I was then. And I was like, what is this? I learned about large language models, and these things can have conversations. And it was like a eureka moment for me, honestly. I went home to Steph and I was like, oh my God, large language models, you can actually build things to have conversations. You can teach it, you can train it. What do we do at IncomeMAX? We take beautiful human beings with beautiful hearts and we train them on all of this so that they can have conversations with real people and can get them the help and support they need. I was like, could we do this with AI?
Yeah.
And oh boy, it's working. So now we have Max. Max is our AI that we are training. It's gone through different stages. First of all, we taught Max to take customer details, the same in an empathetic way and beautiful way, in a way that's suitable to the customer, in another language if need be.
Right.
How exciting is that, right?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And then we're kind of building on that. We're improving on that. So obviously, our ultimate aim is for Max to one day be the chatbot in everybody's pockets who needs this stuff, translated for them, to give them the very best start before perhaps a human needs to take over at a particular stage.
Yeah, that was what was going through my mind, because you've got a fantastic team of very well trained and experienced people. You don't want Max to take over all of that work. And I've always said that there's an ability of any form of technology to support people in doing what they're best at and take out the grunge, if you like, of building things up. So at what point does Max take you to, and at what point does that pass over to one of your team, or is it not systematic?
It is actually, because you have to take it from that kind of systemized approach. And I think what's really important is that AI absolutely has to, for me, work with the humans. Certainly from what we're doing, it has to work with the humans that we have in place, because we know that we've got the platinum sort of model. The processes that we have, it's impactful. It gets people that money. That's what I'm most concerned about, And it doesn't just get people, a bit. It fully maximises their income from everything that they're entitled to. We need Max to do the same. That's our aspiration, really. But we have to proceed with caution, because first of all, AI models they can be difficult to train. They can be difficult to commercialise, and even things like the computing power that you need all needs considerations. Data protection is the same. So, no one's building this stuff off the shelf, or they probably shouldn't be, because it's really, honestly, the risks of using AI incorrectly, it's quite a serious issue. That wasn't lost on me through, as I started to sort of build Max. It wasn't like I was kind of, listen, I sort of started IncomeMAX off in my bedroom, right? This ain't a bedroom thing. This is a serious thing. We've had to get in serious developers to shape the model, develop the framework behind it. You would not believe what is behind Max. We're using a number of different AI sort of models and systems to sort of to get it where we want it to be, which I hope will one day be an all singing, all dancing income maximisation, debt advice, mental health supporting, debt collecting sort of, master, if you like, but we're a long way from that.
Yeah.
We have to go in stages. So at the moment, IncomeMAX will take customer details. It's providing advice with very strict supervision from our human experts and advisors. And then we will build on that, and we will build on that. And we're having tremendous support from partners who are getting behind Max because they realise that we're using it responsibly, slowly, carefully and sustainably. Because if we want Max, we want Max to be the advisor of the future, which I genuinely do believe it's going to be. Then it's got to be built right, and it's got to have because that's the thing. IncomeMAX had the strongest foundations. We need to make sure that Max does
totally. Because in many ways it's representative of your brand, isn't it?
100%, absolutely.
And if it starts to rock,
100%,
your brand rocks. Definitely. So it's important to make sure you do that in the right steps, which is fascinating. And that we've worked together for a number of years because you were an ex-director of MALG, which was fantastic, and sat on our board and had some great influence during your time on the board, and now a MALG ambassador. And the essence of working together, supporting the lives of debt, goes through our bloodstream. I'm interested to know how you've been developing some of the relationships with the likes of British Gas and Nationwide and some other organisations, and working together, the collaboration that goes on behind the scenes with organisations like that. So can you give me a little bit of an insight into that as well, Lee?
I sure can, because nothing would be possible without our partners. And I mean, that was probably the most exciting thing for me when I first started IncomeMAX, because it had a model, it had a business model. It was, we will work with partners who will not only fund the service, but will also refer customers in for support.
It's two-way street, isn't it?
It sounds like too good to be true, but actually it's really difficult. So in the early days, I was like traveling across the country I was in every boardroom, going, so benefits advice, you can imagine companies like, who is this guy? We won an amazing contract with Southern Water. We delivered Southern Water's universal metering program. I mean, that had sort of because obviously at that time, water, we know that water is already precious, right? It's always been precious. But even then it was kind of well known. So we delivered Southern Water's program. So that was amazing. We then went on to work with EDF Energy. They came to me and asked me about warm home discount verification. And I was like, let's do that through conversations. And I'll be honest, at the time they were like, conversations? And I'm like, yeah. Anyway, the rest is history. We've been working with EDF for a decade plus.
Right, yeah.
Nationwide, it's 12 years this year. Incredible partnership. And then, of course, over the years, just more and more people have come to us to partner with us. The likes of OVO and Vanquis and Utilita and E-Gas and Electric and Agility Eco. It's just unbelievable, the partners that we have, the love between those partners as well. Because remember, we build this together. Yeah. When a referral comes through to us and we change a life, it's not being done just by IncomeMAX. It's being done by a referral organisation, an agent on the end of the line that's recognised vulnerability in that customer and then said, you need to speak to our friends at IncomeMAX. Boom, they come across. And it's a business model that works fantastically well because obviously we've built an incredible sustainable business, because year on year, our partners back us to do what we do. Yeah. They trust us to maximise vulnerable customers' income. And we're helping thousands of families every year through those partnerships. But again, it's all because there's a willingness from everybody to make life better for people. It's not just, Lee had this big idea and it's worked really well. I'm so grateful that it has, but it's not been done in isolation. It's been done through these partnerships, through my team, and through the love and support of the wider sector, who really get me, I think, and get what IncomeMAX is all about and get what it is that we're trying to do. Yeah.
No, fantastic. And I know that there are some other little gems that you're going to share with us at the MALG conference when we're in Leeds in November, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm not going to probe any further today because I want to save up some stuff. And I know you're going to be talking about some other issues that you're really passionate about as well, Lee. So thank you today. It's been fantastic. The time has absolutely rattled by. And I look forward to seeing you in Leeds in November. And thank you for your time today.
Thanks so much, Bob.
Thank you to everyone who's listened to and supported the MALG podcast so far. Please don't forget to like, follow, subscribe and download these vital conversations about working together to improve the lives of people in debt so that we can keep bringing them to you every month. Listen at www.malg.org.uk/podcast or wherever you get your podcasts.